Hello, hello, this is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello, I do hope everyone's doing really well, because I am privileged today. I have a fantastic guest, and we announced the topic, the human side of innovation. So with me here, Philippe Boulanger. Philippe, if I'm not butchering your name, welcome to the show.
Well, you did well. You didn't butcher. It's actually the difficulty is when I'm in the US because I cannot pronounce it Boulanger, which is the French way.
Mhm.
So I have to say Boulanger. And then
Oh,
when I
no,
say
that's too far. No, that's too far. So Boulanger it is. Yeah. Welcome, Philippe,
yeah,
very
but
much. Yep. Mhm.
yeah, but when you go in a restaurant and you want to reserve a table and they ask your name, at the front desk,
You're in
then
trouble.
if I say Boulanger, they are in trouble. Okay, so either I switch to Boulanger or I just say baker, which is the exact translation in English.
Exactly. I was thinking about this. Yes, exactly. Good. Whatever works. Absolutely. So you're being creative. You're being creative, Philippe, with your name. And today, when we talk about innovation, right, I do want to start with very open beginning because you're an expert in innovation. You're a global speaker. You are an entrepreneur. And I know you're advising many businesses. You are involved with so many ventures. So your experience is absolutely precious when it comes to innovation, culture, technology, people, humans. Okay, we'll talk a
Mhm.
lot about all these aspects, but let's start somewhere. So, to me, innovation, how is it different from, let's say, invention, creativity? Because people use these words interchangeably. So, please shed some light for us.
And you're right, Irene. People do not understand the difference between those words. And if you ask most managers in companies the difference between creativity and invention and innovation, you say, yeah, well, it's almost the same. Well, actually, there is a big gap, and let me explain that gap. Creativity. I mean, anyone could be creative, and we were creative as kids. If you remember well, when you were a kid, you would uh, you would use a piece of wood, and it would become a sword, and then you would start it to be on a virtual horse, and you became Zorro. Okay, actually, I was becoming Zorro because this was more a boys' game, and we have lost our creativity after a while, and definitely inside companies. Actually, it's not that we have lost; it has been displaced and it has been misused. And in some cases, it had been just shut down. So creativity, anyone can be creative at any point. We can be creative in writing fiction. We can be creative in music, in painting, in sculpture. I mean, in many fields, and we can be creative as well technically, finding some solutions to problems that we discover. And typically, being creative is part of the design thinking uh, methods that we have, which is an early stage of finding some solutions to a problem. And this creativity could be used to be an invention, meaning you could have some patents if you are creative enough, because it has not been done by anyone else before. So you can patent a very creative idea. And if you stop there, well, you won't go very far, because there is a big difference between having an idea, if this idea is very new, and executing that idea to put it on the market or to use it inside your company. Let's say you have created a new process which allows you to go faster or more efficiently. Well, if it is just an idea, it doesn't help. So innovation in that respect is to put in execution the ideas that you have had. And to put in execution goes through multiple steps. Basically, you need to validate your idea, you need to experiment on your idea, you need to check that it is acceptable by your colleagues or your market. And This is why creativity and innovation are pretty far away, and innovation very frequently start out of creativity. Even if it is incremental or whether it's incremental or disruptive, it starts from there. Okay.
talking about technology innovations a lot. Okay, there are all types of innovations, as you mentioned. There's disruptive, there's incremental, there's business model innovation, right? There is process improvement innovation, there is product innovation. There are all kinds of ways company can go for. Let's focus on us as humans. So let's bring some human element to it. Where do you see we go?
And let's come back on creativity. If we speak about the human side of innovation, and if we say that creativity is definitely a key part to start an innovation process, then we should consider are people are creative or not anymore. And one of the big issues we have in companies today, when we speak about innovation culture, is the fact that people usually are prevented to be creative. If they come with an idea, they might be told, come on, it's not your business. And depending on the way it is said, it could become a very big issue. And if you come to your manager and you say, you know what, I've got that idea and I'd like to investigate. And your manager says the first time, I don't believe in it, stop it. Worse, if he does it in front of other people, he will shut you down. And this is called, and we come to a bias, which is called learned helplessness. So basically, you are not going to contribute anymore because you know that your ideas are not valued the way they should be by your manager. So in terms of culture, definitely the manager has to create the environment in which ideas could be shared without the fear to be judged or punished or mocked by the team or other people. Instead, the key point here is to say, okay, you've got this idea, let's define how we could validate it, how we can make sure that it makes sense. And it is a very different story. Some companies have this culture. I could take the example, for instance, of Amazon, where they have the institutional yes. Basically, if you have to propose an idea, the manager has a yes by default. And if he wants to say no, he has to create a report that goes up into the hierarchy. So actually, the burden is on the manager. However, since it is a yes by default, it means that if you propose an idea, you will have to implement it. So you better propose good ideas that you have started to validate upfront. Otherwise, you are in trouble. And then it becomes a different story because you don't have this this learned helplessness, because you know that you are in a welcoming environment.